Good evening, Purple family. Welcome to another episode of Shades of Purple, a Prince podcast. On tonight's episode, I'm going to be reviewing Prince's 8th studio album, Parade, subtitled Music from the Motion Picture Under the Cherry Moon. So part 1, I'm going to be reviewing the album. And then part 2, I'm going to be reviewing The End of the Revolution, kind of talk about that. And of course, the movie connected to the album Under the Cherry Moon. So kind of like how I did Purple Rain in 2 parts, I'm going to do Parade in 2 parts. So let's just get right into it. So Prince began working on the album in mid-April 1985, shortly before the release of the previous album Around the World in a Day, and began by recording the drum track in sequence of Wendy's Parade, later retitled Christopher Tracy's Parade for the movie, New Position, I Wonder You, and Under the Cherry Moon, all in one take. So those first 4 songs that we hear on the album, he did in one take, y'all. He then layered other instruments over all 4 tracks. Having been pleased with Clare Fisher's orchestration on the Family album, Prince sent Clare Fisher a cassette tape marked the Marx Brothers Project and asked him to arrange and record orchestration for the entire album, except of Kiss, of course, which he did from mid-1985 to early 1986 at the Monterey Sound Studios in Glendale, California. Although Prince chose to not use all of the instrumentation on the final release. And actually, outside of maybe some of the string arrangements and the flute arrangements, some of the wind arrangements, he really didn't use a lot of Fisher's orchestration for some reason. Like, he had him do all this orchestration and then he didn't use all of it or half of it. I don't know why, but Prince being Prince, he might be changed his mind, but I mean, it still sounded wonderful. I mean, and this Parade to me, before I get into my review, I just want to make a couple of remarks about the album as a whole. I kind of feel like it was really different. Even till this day, I feel like Parade is an album that, the sound of it, the aesthetic of it, he had a different aesthetic for every album. So that was, kind of congruent with everything else that he had done. But this particular sound with the Clare Fisher orchestration really sets it apart from every other album in his discography. And I really like it. And I think that it really fit very well. It was very much a compliment to the Under the Cherry Moon. And I know a lot of people don't care for the movie, but I guess I should probably wait and say this with my review, but I'll go ahead and say it now. I really liked the film, and I really think that the soundtrack, these songs, go perfectly with this movie. But I'll talk about that in part 2. But he did a couple of configurations for the album. The first configuration was compiled on the 1st of May, 1985, but several changes, including the removal of 4 tracks and recordings of 5 additional tracks, took place between then and the final release. The soundtrack doesn't include all the songs heard in the movie, but he did play a good majority of them, but there were some songs that he didn't play in the movie. The album produced 4 commercially released singles: Kiss, Mountains, Girls and Boys, in Europe only, and Another Lover or Hole in Your Head. Prince supported the album with a major European and Japanese tour, starting with a series of hit and run shows, with each show announced a day or 2 before the show itself throughout the U.S. before the Parade tour was formally launched. Several songs from the album were played on the tour. So the album reached number 3 on the U.S. Billboard Top Pop Albums chart and number 2 on the Billboard Top Black Albums chart, and it came out on March 31st of 1986. So the album was certified platinum by the RIAA 2 months after its release on the 3rd of June, 1986. So let's just get right into some of the tracks. Like I said, I've listened to the album a couple of times since before I did the review, and y'all, I've kind of had a busy week. I really thought that I was actually going to do this episode tomorrow because I'm off from work, and me and my husband, we celebrated our 6th wedding anniversary, and we went out of town, and we actually just got back today. But I figure, you know what, it's kind of, later in the evening, well, basically night. And I'm like, you know what, I'm not tired. I'm just kind of just sitting around, not doing anything. So I was like, let me go ahead and do my review of Parade. Why not? So the first track, Christopher Tracy's Parade, or as it was first called, Wendy's Parade, is the first track on the album, and it's a good opening song. It was Wendy's Parade until they decided to change it, for the movie. Another good fact about this particular, well, let me first say, I like the song. I think it's a good opening. And I noticed on the movie that it was one of the first songs after the beginning, that piano scene at the very beginning of the movie. And then it goes on to do this track. And it's a very upbeat track. I like the drums in the track. And I like that it seems like he did more live drums on this album. And I could be wrong about that, but it sounds like in a lot of these songs that it doesn't really sound like, the drum machine, that the LM1 that we're used to hearing from Prince in like in 1999 and a little bit in Purple Rain. It didn't sound like he was doing a drum machine. These sounded more like the live drums that he did on tracks like Tambourine on Around the World in a Day. So sorry if I'm saying too much, or if I'm kind of stuttering a little bit. Just apologies for that. But so Prince's father, John L. Nelson, received a co-writing credit, although his input is uncertain. And Prince did this also on the Purple Rain album. He gave him a music credit for Computer Blue. And then he would also give him a writing credit for Scandalous on the Batman album. And so there is some kind of, rumors have kind of circulated that, he really didn't do anything to these songs. But Prince just put his name on there so to get his father some money, basically, to give him, some income. So, but not to say that, John L. Nelson wasn't a talented pianist, because he was. So, he may have helped his son in some way. And I kind of want to believe that he did, especially with Computer Blue, because the riff that, Prince would use was similar to the piano riff that he may have got from his father. Now, as far as Christopher Tracy's Parade or Wendy's Parade, I don't really know if John was necessarily involved with the instrumentation of that or Scandalous, but then again, we don't know. It's just all up to conjecture. But another thing about this track is, once again, the original lyrics were Wendy's Parade. And in the song Kiss, he actually refers to this when he says, little girl Wendy's Parade, like right before the guitar solo, which actually a lot of people think that, Wendy did the guitar solo in Kiss, but actually it was Prince that did the guitar solo. But, I've already talked about Kiss before, the whole, history of how that song came about. But I'll briefly go over that again once we get to it. But anyway, so all this time I thought that Prince was saying, let's go, Wendy, let's play. I don't know why I thought that, but that's what I thought he was saying. But he's saying, little girl Wendy's Parade, to introduce the guitar solo that he actually, performed in the studio. So that's I guess an interesting fact about Christopher Tracy's Parade. But it's one of those songs that, it'll get in your head. And it's also kind of a fast song too. I think it's only maybe 3 minutes or so. So it's not a long song, but it goes right into the second song, New Position. These first 4 songs, I think really fit well together. And the fact that he did them all in one take, I think that was the reason why he chose to do that, because he knew that they would all fit into this narrative that he had for the album. So New Position, the second track, he's like, honey, honey, he would just, I loved his vocals in this particular song. And then I liked the drums also. Like I said, he did this as, a part of the 4 tracks where, he did them straight through. Like I said, they fit. Like I said, I can't tell you how, when I found that out, I was just like, that makes so much sense listening to the album, because those first 4 songs are kind of short. And they kind of just run into each other. So let me stop, exaggerating on that, but I just really like it. So this track was re-recorded on April of 1985 in the Sunset Sound Studio. And Prince recorded the drum track in sequence of Wendy's Parade, So like I said, he took the drum track that he was using on Wendy's Parade and he just kind of refigured it for New Position. Wendy and Lisa created a slower version of the song called Soul Sister in November 1985 by adding overdubs and new lyrics. The rewritten chorus contains the chant Big Ol' Soul Sister that was sung and occasionally by Prince and the Revolution in concerts between 1984 and 1986. So I hadn't heard that. I'll have to go back, but probably when they were doing a lot of those parade tours, I guess they would do that, in between, other songs or whatever. So Prince also, like the instrumentation, the orchestration that he got from Claire Fisher. And he never met Claire Fisher, by the way, because, Prince could be a little superstitious at times. And so he felt like because they had such a good working relationship that if they were to meet for some reason that would change, or I don't know. But so they never met, but they sent tapes back and forth during this time working on this album together. A short portion of the discarded Fisher arrangement was later sampled by Prince and Raven to the Joy Fantastic, the album he put out in the late 90s. So, like I said, Claire did a lot of this orchestration at the Monterey Sound Studios in Glendale, but Prince preferred the track without the orchestration. And he did this for most of the album. And I don't know why he had this man do all this orchestration and it was like, I don't want it, So, but New Position is actually one of the older tracks, if not the oldest track on the album, because the basic tracking actually took place in the spring and summer of 1982 at Prince's Kiowa Home Trail Studios in Chanhassen. So it was also, he was also recording the Vanity 6 album at this time. So actually, New Position was actually going to be on the Vanity 6 album, but he kept it and reworked it for Parade. And I think that was a very good idea. So, and I like the song also. It's just one of those songs that in the way that it was in the movie when they started doing like the little train dance, or what do they call that? Where, all people are dancing in a train in a line. I thought that was a good time for this song to come up because, he's talking about, we need to do a new position, and of course, Prince is always, he's doing those innuendos, so you don't know if he's talking about sex or if he's talking about, like, let's get it together. Let's do something different. And that's kind of how I took the song. I didn't really take it as an innuendo of sex, but then again, it probably was, knowing Prince. So moving on, I Wonder You is the third track on the album. And this was the first track where the lead vocals was by someone else other than Prince. They were by Wendy Melvion, his guitarist. And this came about because the song was initially recorded with Prince and Wendy both singing lead, and Lisa Coleman doing a harmony in the background for the background vocal. That version was placed on an early configuration of Parade before it even had that title, and it was compiled on the 1st of May 1985. The song was sent to Claire Fisher in June of 1985 for his input, and Fisher did two different orchestral arrangements, one with full orchestration, and after a little while, a request from Prince, he added a flute family orchestration, much like the final release version. So he did a full orchestrational version, and then he did just a flute family orchestration, which is the one that Prince decided to go with. These versions had Prince's lead vocals mixed in loudest, and they were obscuring Wendy's vocals. But before Prince then omitted his voice so that Wendy was now singing the lead. So you can actually, if you listen with headphones though, you could still kind of hear Prince on the back vocals a little bit. So once again, Claire Fisher's full orchestration of the song remains unreleased, and I really hope that if they do if they ever at this point do another special super deluxe edition of Parade, I hope that they release a lot of the Claire Fisher's orchestration that Prince left off, since it is unreleased, because that's what we as Prince fans want, right? We want the unreleased stuff. So come with it, Prince Estate. Like, if it's Parade, that would be great. If it's Diamonds and Pearls, we just want another super deluxe edition, because it doesn't look like they're going to do it, not unless they surprise everybody, for Christmas at this point. But if they're going to do it next year, like, they need to go ahead and release a lot of this orchestration and then do a color version of Under the Cherry Moon. But okay, I'll get to that, like I said, when I talk about the movie. So moving on. So number 4, Under the Cherry Moon. So this was a slower track, and this was the last sequence of the 4 tracks where he did all the tracks in one take. Like I said, Prince's father received a co-writing credit. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. He received a co-writing credit, although once again, his input is uncertain. And Prince reused some of the song's melody in The Question of You, which was recorded 3 months later. So The Question of You, which is would be on the Graffiti Bridge album, he used kind of some of the melody of this for The Question of You. And that's one thing I noticed about The Question of You when I first heard that song, was like, I knew that it sounded like another song, but I couldn't remember which song. And now I'm like, oh, okay, now I know what song it was, Under the Cherry Moon. And I like Under the Cherry Moon. I like the instrumentation of it. And it goes really good, of course, with the movie. But I don't know. It's just kind of one of those songs where it's kind of sad, but interesting. And I like how he had Claire Fisher kind of layer the other instruments, on the song. So it's a slower song, but it's also kind of a whimsical song at the same time. And like I said, just like the other previous 3 songs, Prince requested all this orchestration. And then when he heard it, I guess maybe he just didn't like the orchestration or thought that it would sound better without the orchestration. I'm not real sure, but he took it all off. And once again, all of the orchestration on these first 4 songs in particular, all the full orchestration is all unreleased. So once again, hopefully when they do the Super Deluxe Edition, we'll be able to hear some of this orchestration that got left off. So track number 5 is Girls and Boys. So this is one of my favorite personal tracks on the album. It was they made the music video pretty much like they did they pretty much took the scene of the movie when they're in the I guess, what is that, like a club, I guess. And he hops up on the piano, does a split, and does a song. And so this was actually the first album track released by Prince under his own name and to contain musical contributions by Eric Leeds. So this was the very first song that the saxophonist Eric Leeds, who was the brother of his tour manager Alan Leeds, this was the very first song that he was credited to be on. And he would, of course, become a long-term collaborator with him. Eric Leeds would also, be a part of The Family, which was the group that came about after The Time broke up. So I'm actually going to, I hadn't really talked about The Family that much. I've just kind of, talked about them here and there, or kind of alluded to them. But I think when I get ready to talk about the whole counter-revolution, which would lead to the end of the revolution, I'm going to talk about The Family and how they came into existence. But he was with The Family as a player in that particular group by Prince. And he is a very, 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 very talented saxophonist. And just about any track that he has done saxophone on has been awesome. Okay, so if you don't know who Eric Leeds is, please check him out. This was also a very popular song that he will perform later on in live versions. Probably the most well-known live version he did was in 2002 when he did the One Night Alone, the after show, It Ain't Over. And then he also did a couple of live versions in 2007 and 2008 when he was doing Indigo Nights, when he was doing the O2 Arena, the 21 Nights at O2 Arena. So, and he also kind of mixed it in with the Song of the Heart and Delirious. And so, you know how Prince was just really good at when he did a lot of his songs live, how he would mix them with other songs. And so Girls and Boys, even though it's kind of a faster song, but it's also a song that you can kind of put really good into a mix. And I really just like, you know, he basically, you know, tells a story about meeting this girl who had the cutest ass he ever seen, and he did too. They were meant to be. I was like, okay. Now, at least he knows that he has a cute ass, because there's a lot of guys out there who have the cutest little butts and they don't know it. So at least Prince knew he had a cute ass. So moving on. So Life Can Be So Nice. Now, this is another song that I just really love on the album. And when I was listening to it on the way back to Arkansas with my husband, we turned it up, because this is one of those songs where it's a really fast paced song, but it's just, I love the drums on it. I mean, it's just I think one of the stronger tracks on the album. So the basic tracking for this one was the 16th of April, 1985 in Sunset Sound. And once again, Claire Fisher did some orchestration on it in early 1985. And now, while Boys and Girls is just credited to Prince by himself, Life Can Be So Nice was credited to Prince and the Revolution. And also, it was also played in Under the Cherry Moon in the scene where he's waiting on, what is her name in the movie? Mary, to come to like that racetrack or whatever. And he does like a little air drum solo. And this song also, I think, has a little, you know, Prince sexual innuendo when he says, kiss me once, kiss me twice, and something about milk and the lips and all that. And I'm just like, okay, is he talking about eating some vagina again? And the milk being the, you know, I don't want to get explicit, but you know what I'm saying. I could be totally wrong. I could be, you know, my head in the gutter, but it just sounded like he was once again talking about some nasty, you know, in the song. And, you know, he could be, you know, you never know. Or he could be about, you know, kiss me once and the milk from your lips could be like him, you know, or her doing him. I don't know. Anyway, I like the song. I like the, you know, that shh at the back, you know, after the drums. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but y'all know what that shoosh, like, you know, that little sound that kind of sounds like air. And he did that. That was, I guess, it's part of the orchestration, I'm assuming. Or I don't know. I can't describe it, but you know what I'm talking about. And he did that with a lot of the songs on this album. And I liked it. I just thought it fit really good. Okay, so the next song, Venus de Milo, which is kind of an instrumental. And at first it was an unnamed piano instrumental until I guess he gave it this name. And also, you know, the B-side to Mountains, which is the next song after this one, is Alexis de Milo. So that is another instrumental. So this was recorded, it says I'm getting this all from theprinceball.com, of course, on the 11th of July, 1985 at the Washington Avenue Warehouse in Edina. So he recorded this the day after he did the day after God Is Everywhere. So Claire Fisher, like I said, once again, he did all this orchestration for like each song, and Prince was just like, I don't like it. I like it. This was the song that played in the very beginning of the movie, where he's sitting at the piano and giving the white lady the eyes, you know, kind of flirting with his eyes back and forth, with Jerome Benton, you know, giving him all of these notes. So of course Prince is wonderful, of course, on the piano. And I know I probably got a little flack from those that have listened to my review of Around the World a Day, and how I said that I really didn't care for Condition of the Heart. Well, as much as I don't like that song, I love Venus and de Milo very much, because I do enjoy Prince's piano playing. You know, I think his piano playing to me is only second to his guitar playing. And I like his piano ballads. I really do. And his piano instrumentals. And this was one that I really enjoyed. So moving on, Mountains is the next one. And Mountains is a song that I really liked automatically when I first heard it. Even when I first saw the Under the Cherry Moon movie when I was younger and really had no business watching it. And they played it, at the very end of the movie with the credits going. And I was just like, I really like this song. And it really kind of sounds like an 80s song, but I like the instrumentation of it and the melody and the music, which was actually done by Wendy and Lisa. Now, Prince's contribution was just to the lyrics, but Prince being Prince, he will go on to actually, claim credit for everything on this, but it was actually Wendy and Lisa that actually did the music for this. And the basic tracking took place on the 30th of November, 1985. And Wendy and Lisa, like I said, composed the music and recorded it at the Vision Studios in London. And a few days after the shooting of the America video. So that video where they're out in, Paris, I believe, when they were getting ready, they might have been filming. Yeah, November 1985. Yeah, they were definitely filming the movie by this time, probably. The Under the Cherry Moon, or getting ready to, or in the process, or pre-production or whatever. Because if you have seen the America video, that was a concert that they did in Paris. And so they actually did the music for Mountains the day after that shoot for that video. And like I said, Prince composed the lyrics, but he claimed sole credit for the song upon its release. Mountains is the only song on the album to showcase the extended Revolution band. So the PrinceVault.com is being nice and said the extended Revolution, but really even Eric Leeds has said that it really should have been called the Counter Revolution. So that's what I'm going to call it. The Counter Revolution band, which featured Miko Weaver and Alana Bliss, which would become a part of his band when he would do the Sign of the Times and Love Sexy. They first started on the Parade tour with Prince in 1986. And it is the earliest recorded Prince-related track to feature Alana Bliss. And Alana Bliss was actually brought on by Eric Leeds. He was a friend of Eric Leeds when Prince, approached Eric and say, hey, do you know any, you have any friends that play the trumpet or, any other body, that you're close to that plays, instruments. And so, Eric suggested, I think his first name is actually Michael, but Prince renamed him, as he often does, to Alana Bliss. So there's that. So the next track is Do You Lie, the 9th track. And the basic tracking for this took place on the 14th of July, 1985 in the Washington Avenue warehouse. A few days after the unreleased Neon Telephone. And Neon Telephone, I want to say I've heard this unreleased song, and I think that it would have really fit really good on the Parade album. So I don't know why Prince, decided to leave it off, but I think that it would have been really good. Do You Lie was also in a part of the movie where the little kids are talking right before the big party for Mary. And and I think, just a lot of the extras are kind of having their shine. And I like the song. I kind of think it's a little short, but it's also a kind of another incidental song where it's kind of like, what am I looking for? Do you like kind of, like I said, whimsical. And yeah, I like it. I dig it. So the next song, of course, is the infamous Kiss. So now when I did way back in the first season of the podcast, when I talked about Prince's number 1 hits, Kiss, of course, is number 4 of his 5 number 1 hits. And I talked about, what happened, how the song came about, because really it wasn't an invention of Prince, not at first. It was actually, he did a rough demo of kind of a bluesy country song that had the lyrics, but it didn't have the music, the instrumentation that would actually be added by David Z and Brown Mark. At the time that Prince was recording the Parade album, Maserati, which was actually Brown Mark's group, was also at Sunset Sound, and they were recording their album in Studio 2. And so there came a request for Prince to give them a song for their album. And so Prince ended up giving them the song 100 Miles Per Hour, which is a great song. And I think that did go on that album as well. But he also decided to give them this rough demo for Kiss. And he told Brown Mark and David Z, hey, do something with this. And so like I said, literally all he had was some guitar, acoustic guitar, and some of the lyrics. And that was it. And like I said, it sounded really bluesy, kind of country. And David Z was just like, okay, what are we supposed to do with this? And so him and Brown Mark kind of played around with it and kind of put like a funky beat on it and a hi-hat and just all this, extra instrumentation on it, and made it kind of sound, kind of have more like a poppy kind of funky sound. And so, they left to go to dinner that night, that evening. This is in April, end of April, like April 28th of 1985. And so by the time they came back the next day, Prince took it back because, he liked what he heard. And then he, while they were gone, I guess that, that night, or maybe early that morning before they came to the studio, one or the other, he took off Brown Mark's bass and added his vocals and added his guitar solo on it. And so David said at the time that he was just really just like, could not believe like how, how great, how great it sounded. So, but be that as it may. So anyway, hey y'all. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm back. I was looking at my recording and it didn't look like that it was recording. So I'm going to have to check this. I might have to redo this episode. But anyway, so that is Kiss. And Kiss, of course, became a major, major hit. And so, yeah, that's that. He kind of took it over and, they were kind of pissed about it. And Brown Mark would later say that he kind of felt like he never got paid. He never got any money, even though he said that Prince told him that, he would get money from it. So, it was just, just really an unfortunate situation all the way around. Like I said, I hope I'm still recording. For some reason, it looks like it's just stuck on 15 minutes and 32 seconds. So that's why I was just like, oh, what's going on? So I'm going to review this and maybe edit it before I release it. So y'all might not even hear this, but if you do, it's okay. It's just one of those things. But moving on. So finally, we come to Another Lover Like You Need a Hole in the Head. So that song was, like I said, another song that is a fast-paced song like Life Can Be So Nice. And it's another song that I just really enjoy because it was another song that Prince would play at, other times. I think one of the times I remember him playing this song was when he did the halftime show, the halftime press conference that he did when he did the Super Bowl. So, and once again, same thing with this song. Claire would do the instrumentation. Prince would decide not to go with it. But Prince asked Eric Leeds and Alana Bliss to overdub a horn section to the extended version based on the arrangement that they had been playing live. So they had been playing the song live. Prince really liked what he heard. And so he was just like, so he added that overdub to that song, to the extended version of the song. So, and although presumably the whole song, like I said, once again, was scored by Claire, he just took all the instrumentation off and just left the stuff that Eric Leeds and Alana Bliss did. But it was basically supposed to be called Hole in Your Head. But then after Prince, did the lyrics, and he was another lover holding your head. And so it all just comes together. So it's a really long title for a song, but it just works. It's just one of those songs that just works. And in the UK and Europe, it was released as, once again, the fourth single following Girls and Boys. Another great song. Also, it says here, they added these horns, the horns that Atlanta Bliss and Eric Leeds would add. They would add without Prince being in the studio. And this was on the 16th of June, 1986 at Creation Studios in Minneapolis. So, and also that following day, they had like a full band session where they recorded Databank, Can't Stop This Feeling I Got, and We Can Fuck. Okay, we're all recorded on that same day. So, last but not least, we have Sometimes It Snows in April. And when me and my husband were on our way home once again, and we got to the very end of the album and this song, of course, it, kind of made me a little sad, because of course the song is sad. It's talking about the death of Christopher Tracy and, basically the death of, Prince, and, one of the most eerie things about this song is the fact that it was recorded on the 21st of April, 1985. And we know, 1 years later, Prince would pass away on this same date. And I think that is probably the one thing that will always stand out about this song now that we have this, information about the song. But it is also... It could have been one of the earlier songs also. It had existed for years, possibly since 1977 as an unfinished song. But like I said, the basing tracking took place on that 21st of April. And he was thinking he would probably add it to the Around the World in a Day album. But he ended up putting it on this album and kind of changing the lyrics to kind of fit the movie. It's kind of like what he did when he did Purple Rain, is he tried to do basically like another soundtrack album. And that's kind of how I see Parade as a whole. It was a soundtrack album. Now, it didn't do as good, of course, as Purple Rain, but it was an album that would, as we would come to find out, would be the last album that he would do with the Revolution. And I think that in a way, I think Prince kind of knew even at this time that he was going to be going a different direction. And now when I think about the song, Sometimes It Snows in April, I think about, kind of like the ending of something, because death is really, the end of something, but the beginning of something else also, because they say when somebody dies, somebody else is born. And so I think that when Prince wrote this particular song, I think he was thinking about how this particular band, the Revolution, the band that, helped him become a superstar, was now kind of in its final months, final year, and how he was, kind of lamenting that. And so that's just my thoughts on this particular song. And it's one of those sad songs that makes you cry when you hear it. But I think for Prince, I think it was sad in a different way for him, because it was emotional for him, just as it was for the members of the Revolution when they come to find out that they were ending as a group. It was a very emotional time for Prince as well in his personal life, because of course now he was seriously dating Susanna Melvion, which was Wendy Melvion's sister. But of course he had his little side chicks or whatever, but he could just never be to a point where he could just be totally faithful to her. And it was starting to become more and more, straining on his relationship with his bandmates, particularly Wendy. So, all of this was just coming to a head at this time. And like I said, I'll talk more about this when I talk about the Counter-Revolution and my review of the movie. So I'm going to end it at that. And I'm going to kind of review this and make sure it sounds okay before I put it out. So until then, you guys, I will see you. I will not see you, but I will be doing probably the next podcast. If not later this week, probably next week. Okay. So until then, y'all have a great night, and peace and be wild, and may you live to see the dawn. Bye.